Well, hello. Welcome to another episode of Coffee Break Blogging, where we're going to continue on our series to creating and growing a profitable blog-based information business online. Now, what we're going to talk about today is the next step in evaluating a niche. And in this one, we're going to get a little bit into surveying, which is actually a skill that's going to become handy to you throughout your career in this particular business. But what we're going to talk about specifically today is how to find out what your market needs and wants. It's a very important thing because we've looked at demand, we've looked at what the level of money flowage, I know it's a made up word, but I'm going to use it anyway, flowage in the space. But now, if you are going to personally enter that particular market, you need to be really in tune with what people need and want. Now, there's two forms of what I call intelligence gathering that you can do here, and they are indirect and direct. Now, the indirect intelligence is by you basically sitting back and observing the marketplace. You're going to go out on the competitor sites, in the forums, in social media groups, on other blogs, and you're simply going to participate as a very active member of that community. And you're going to learn all about what these people are interested in, what they're reacting to, what kinds of questions that they are asking. And you want to not just be sitting there as a member of the audience, but you want to be a very active and acute observer of that audience while you are participating in it. In fact, while you're actually seeing people's comments on other blogs and seeing their questions in social media groups, and this can include LinkedIn, Facebook, Quora.com, where they ask lots of questions, Yahoo Answers, whatever. You need to be sitting there and making records of what people are asking. And you could do that in a spreadsheet. You can do it in an Evernote note, whatever works for you. But not just be participating like a typical reader, but actually being a very acute observer of what's going on. And by doing this indirect intelligence, you can learn a lot about what people are looking for, what's making them tick in that particular space. You can also spot gaps where you can potentially enter and offer something that other people are not, just simply by observing what is already going on in the marketplace. So that's indirect intelligence. And it's indirect because it's not really to your own audience or anything like that. You're not really doing much except being a very active member of the community. Now, direct intelligence is a little bit different. In this case, you are actually going to be doing your own active work, potentially even to build your own audience in the space. You're going to be actually asking questions, and you're actually going to be getting feedback directly to the questions that you ask. Now, one of the ways that you can do this is through the use of survey. Now, survey is an art and a science in and of itself. Now, it can be as informal as private messaging somebody on a forum that's in the potential market that you're looking to go to, and just be like, hey, can I ask you a few questions? Or if you see a very active member of a particular blog's audience, then trying to get them on a quick Skype call so you can ask them some questions. There's a lot of very one-on-one personal ways that you can go and play an active role in learning about the potential market. But then there's also survey. And survey is typically where you're asking a set of questions to a group of people and seeing what the results are. Now, the thing about surveys is that we're looking at things like what their feelings are with regard to what they're trying to accomplish. We're looking at what their barriers are. What are the things that are bothering them about what they're trying to accomplish? What are their buttons? And now a button in marketing talk is essentially, it's a slang, and it basically means that it's like you press a button and you get a particular reaction. When it comes to marketing, then on a human level, you could press a particular button by way of talking about a particular topic or getting their blood pressure up by talking about something that's bothering them. Those would be buttons, and it gets a fairly predictable reaction on a larger scale. That's what a button would be. So for example, with my audience of bloggers, I know that the technology part of it, like the confusions of customizing a WordPress theme and stuff like that, is a pretty typical button for my space. It's something that frustrates the hell out of a lot of people in my audience, and that would be a button. And I did find that out through lots of surveys, including the kind we're talking about here, but also because I have a lot of very informal surveys coming into me all the time via people actually emailing me, and I see comments on the blog. I mean, all those are valid forms of survey. So those are feelings, barriers, and buttons. We also want to find out exactly what their challenges are. And the big thing about when they're telling you what they're struggling with and what their challenges are is you want to pay attention to the actual language that they use to tell you about it. Because that language is important when it comes to matching up your future content with what they're looking for. You've got to meet your audience where they're at. You can't force something down their throat. So if they're saying something in a particular way, you're going to have to say it in that particular way so that they realize that what you are looking to produce is a match. So pay very close attention to the language that they use. How do they describe the problem? How do they describe what the goal is for themselves? Now, one thing about that, if you want to know what their language is you want to ask open-ended questions. You don't want to have them, do fill in the blank type stuff. You want to ask them a question and give them an empty slate where they can type anything they want. Because then you are not putting them into a particular box. You're actually allowing them to talk the way that, the way that they want to talk. That's where you can find out a lot about the language that they're using. Now, a few sample questions here that you could ask. Things like, what would you like to learn about fill in the blank next? So what would you like to learn about next? Another one, what is your biggest fear or frustration when it comes to fill in the blank? What are you most struggling with when it comes to fill in the blank? What are you most trying to get out of fill in the blank? So in my case, when somebody starts a blog, I could ask them, what are you most trying to get out of starting up this blog? You get the idea here? Another question, what might happen if you're not able to fill in the blank? Find out what the negative part of it is. What are they trying to avoid? Here's one that goes right to the idea of potential products down the road. You could ask them, what free product would you love to download about blah, blah, blah? Another one, what would be your perfect outcome from fill in the blank? And then lastly, if you're going right to the heart of the matter in terms of potential products, you could actually, once they've led up to something they want to download or something that would help them get an outcome that they want, you can ask them, what would you expect to pay for this? That's pretty much it. There's obviously a lot more types of questions that's going to go beyond the scope of this particular episode of Coffee Break Blogging, but those are the types of questions you can ask. Now, here's the thing. What do you do with that survey? Now, if you already have a blog and you're doing it, then you can go to your existing audience. But if you're following in line with this Coffee Break Blogging, you're just getting started, you may not have an audience right now. Or let's say you have a blog and your audience just isn't that large, so you feel like you would be asking these questions to such a small sample of people that it wouldn't be worth it. Well, what you can do is think a little bit outside the box when it comes to conducting the survey. You can still set the survey up. You can use free tools like Google Docs. Google's got the thing where you can set up a form and all the responses will go into a free spreadsheet right there on Google Drive. So that's an option. There are other surveying options out there as well. But set that thing up. You don't even need to have a website for this because you can just simply use Google. And then you can actually set up a page with it. And that page can be on a domain that you own. It could be pretty much whatever. I mean, it doesn't really matter. And then how do you get traffic to that page? Well, all the ways that you would typically get traffic. You can go to these social media groups that are in this market and be like, hey, I'm really trying to find out, more about this market I wouldn't call it a market, but I'm trying to find out more about what you guys are really looking for to see what there might be some avenues here to help you out. Could you go and fill out this quick survey for me? Obviously, make sure that especially if you're on a forum or something like this, make sure, whoa, that was funny. intro started going there. All right. So, but you'd want to make sure that it's okay with the owner of that forum, that you're not breaking any rules. But so you can go to forums, you can go to social media groups. But here's another really direct way that you could go, and that is you could literally set up the survey on a page, and you could go to things like Facebook and run targeted paid traffic to it. And so you can actually run just simple, don't spend a lot of money on this, but put that survey in front of the kinds of people who would be most interested in it. You could target other pages that they're interested in it. You could target their interest. There's all kinds of targeting options on Facebook, and just dedicate a little bit of money to gathering this information and sending them directly into a survey. So you don't even need a blog in this case. You would literally be going direct from some paid traffic into finding out the direct answers that you need. And you could do all of this without a blog. So that's, again, summarizing 2 quick ways of learning about what your market needs and wants. There's the indirect intelligence, and then there's the very direct intelligence, which is where we're going to be doing things like surveying. And again, it's a very important skill. We have more information that you can learn about at blogmarketingacademy.com on how to actually run surveys. You can actually use surveys as a very effective marketing tool. They're very powerful. You just have to know how to do it right, and there's some of the psychology behind surveys. There's a lot of really cool things that you can do with surveys, but in this case, we really just want to find out what people need and want, because that's a very important thing to you getting into a market and becoming a player in that particular space. Okay, hopefully that episode was helpful to you. This is episode 39. I will talk to you again in episode 40 of the Coffee Break Blogging Podcast, where we're going to be talking about how to verify your business idea and get some proof that what you're about to do isn't going to fall on deaf ears. Okay, see you in episode 40 next time.